Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I just finished Resident Evil Village this week and I have a number of thoughts on the game now that I've sat on it for a couple days. There's so much to like about it and a few areas that I thought just needed improvement, so let's discuss, shall we? I thought the promotion of the game was smart. Capcom chose a great marketing strategy to use the lovely, ample chested Lady D to capture the attention of players. You think she'd be the big mad at least until you hear her talking to Miranda, and if she's a cuffed cookie, you can only imagine how tough Miranda's going to be when you actually get to fight her. The fact that you get her at the beginning of the game makes the rest of it really unknown. Honestly, after I fought her, I was excited to see where the game went next because I didn't have any expectations. I think that was a smart play. I really do. Likins was weird for me when I first saw the promo material. I was caught off guard. What the hell do Likins have to do with Resident Evil? But the fact that they spun them into the fabric of the mold and Miranda's experimentation made that awkwardness decrease for me. When you read about how the mold impacted individuals differently, some maintaining cognitive function and others not, it also made sense in how you saw some Likins with abilities to use weapons and others that just came at you, bro. At the same time, why a Lichen? Did Miranda install canine properties into the Kado, or however the hell you pronounce it? It's still odd to me that they would turn into these creatures from a parasite. So I really want to know more about Miranda's experimentation. I suppose it's to differentiate the mold from Umbrella's viruses, thus making Lycans, not zombies, but I still don't completely get it. The villagers. Having Ethan see firsthand the horrors the villagers went through to Miranda's experiments reminded me of Resident Evil 4, except we got to hear from the villagers trying to survive. It's like if we had run into the village in 4, barricaded ourselves inside as the villagers attacked, and then found a group that was normal, they were inside, and they were just terrified of what I called the whippy jiggly heads that were infected around them. In other words, they took that element from Resident Evil 4 and added more substance to it, and they added faces to it, which I greatly appreciated, and I think that it really gave it more oomph. It really put you in the shoes of the villagers and saw kind of the horror that Miranda was putting on them and on the village, and kind of up the ante for where it might go as you get further into the game and you see what all she's done. The daughters. Lady D's daughters were a cute addition to the game, and I was saying cute because they weren't so scary, especially when you figured out how to take them out. I was a bit disappointed in how easy they were to defeat. I would have loved a big showdown with all 3 of them instead of taking them out one by one, perhaps with individual mini fights in between before then, and then just getting, like a big fight with all of them to make it a little more difficult. Once I realized how they weren't a big obstacle, it only made me look forward to fighting their mama. Like, I didn't really care about fighting them. I was just like, okay, die. Let's move on. Now, their lore was interesting, and it reminded me of Marguerite in Resident Evil 7 because the whole bug thing, as I so called her, Coochie Bug Lady. Yet, for some reason, their swarm didn't seem as hair-raising. Like, it didn't really creep me out. It was just kind of annoying. All in all, I was really a bit disappointed in the daughters. I ain't gonna lie. Lady D. The fine lady, on the other hand, was a ton of fun from the moment she chopped Ethan's hand off. I so did not expect that to happen just because it happened in the first game. So, but it set things up nicely. So, hiding from her gave me flashbacks of hiding from Tyrant and running away from him. Except, not as serious because this was easier to hide from her. Except for she talked crap, which is great. It's also funny to think about her being angry about us harming her daughters, just like we were about them taking Rose. Of course, circumstances are different, but the parallel makes her stand out from the other houses, I think. Now, her boss fight was a blast. The way I would describe... I described her as a vampire bat dragon lady. I didn't know what to describe her. But her final form explained her size, which was good, and it also differentiated her from the virus infected because her face and her torso were the important part to aim at. which that was her Achilles heel when compared to a lot of the other Resident Evil boss monsters. It's always the eyeballs. Something about fucking eyeballs in these games. So it's nice to see something a little different. And I appreciated throughout the games that these sort of things were different with the mold characters compared to the virus that we're used to. House Beneviento, or however you say it, I'm gonna pronounce it. When I first saw the doll when Ethan is nabbed by Heisenberg, I was so freaking excited. It reminded me of something Tim Burton-esque, and I wanted to know what it was all about. So you can imagine my disappointment that the house was, well, short, and it was just kind of simplistic. Sure, the dolls moving around and making noises were creepy, and all that, but I feel like much more could have been done with that. Like, my god, the mannequins and Visage tripped me the fuck out. But the dolls were a big creep factor. And I feel like they really could have made them creepier because a lot of people find dolls creepy, but I just wasn't creeped out. Now, of course, they didn't use the dolls to really creep you out in that part of the game. They used the big baby. So we gotta talk about the big baby in the room. The baby was the creepiest part of the game for me. It was the part that really just creeped me the fuck out. The damn fetus with this big gaping mouth, making all those noises, leaving a blood trail, being attached to his umbilical cord. For me, it was great horror. It fit the story because you have a doll version of Mia, you have Ethan trying to save his daughter, you have the big baby. We make a family, yes. Yes, Orphan Black. That part made this house fun, but the doll I was so psyched about, I was disappointed. I was so disappointed. But, what can you do? House Moreau. I felt so bad for Salvatore. The poor guy wanted Miranda's love, but he was just a lonely monster. Part of me wishes we had more of him than that. It was great running from him in his final form, but there's room to add to the lead up, I think, to make the fight more exciting. Yeah, he could leave green goop, but why not spawn some buddies to attack the roofs and the platforms that you're running on, instead of him just running around, gonna eat you if you fall off. I felt like they upgraded the fish fight from 4 and played a bit into the idea of the creatures in the sewer, and I think it was 2, I believe. But it just seems short and is not as exciting. But maybe that's the point. Moreau was a lonely creature who died a lonely death. It was just him in the end, just trying to get the love of Miranda, his mama, who she only cared about her true daughter. Didn't give a fuck about him. I almost felt bad killing for him. Almost. He's still trying to eat me, though, so the bitch had to go. The Likins. So I talked about my feelings on the Likins, but I really appreciated the Likin Stronghold. It was just action-packed, tons of fun. Enemies coming at you from all directions with different weapons and armor, and it seems endless at a point, especially when you're inside and they just keep coming down the ramps and shit at you. You truly feel like you're in their lair and have disturbed their slumber. It's just like in Killing Time. Plus, you have to face off with Mr. Hammer, so I don't know. I love this section of the game. It was a lot of fun. House Heisenberg? I've heard that some didn't like the factory part of the game. I can understand that. I mean, it was a little bit confusing to find your way around. I had a hard time finding the elevator when I needed it, and it kind of reminded me of Areas of Amnesia Machine for Pigs. And still, I love the baddies Heisenberg flew at me. It was surprising to see some dudes flying, and I wish I'd encountered more of them. And Propeller Bull Guy was a hoot. I wasn't expecting the fire to come into play, although I think they could have given him some other ability, so it wasn't just a running bull. I still enjoyed the fight. I really wish he'd been on my tail more, honestly, though, as we're running through the thing instead of running into so many of the other guys. They just didn't use him as much as I thought they should have for suspense, especially leading up when you know he's going to be somebody that you're going to fight. As for Heisenberg himself, I enjoyed coming at him with some rockets and machine gun fire, but I sort of wish we'd had more foot fight with him than we did. Being so large and sucking metal from all around would have made it hard to duck behind things, and he could have even thrown stuff in my way to block me. It's not that I didn't really enjoy that fight, but I wanted more complexity because he seemed like a really smart guy who was resourceful. And I mean, look what he did with the, creatures in his little factory. Like, I feel like he could have done more. Miranda. Miranda's the only boss that killed me, and that was really hard for me. It it was because I think she evolved most in her attacks, changing form, shooting blobs, kept me on my toes. I had to decide whether to keep moving or to stand and take out the dangers, whether to fight or hide behind one of her trees or whatever you want to call them. Um, to be honest, I was so disappointed with the final boss encounters in Resident Evil 7. It was just kind of bleh. I didn't enjoy them. I thought it was too easy, and it just wasn't what I expected in a Resident Evil game. So Miranda was a breath of fresh air. I'm glad they finally got that right. I love hard bosses in Resident Evil. So my only complaint is she was the only boss that gave me grief. Plus, you have the showdown of mother versus father, one saving his daughter versus the other one trying to bring hers back to life, one trying to do the right thing, and then the other abusing others to get what she wanted. Then there's the confrontation of the molds. Ethan has powers, but not like Miranda. Was his way of bonding with the mold superior? Nothing fancy, just a sort of immortality like a super soldier. Perhaps that was part of Miranda's downfall. You think? I don't know. Ethan. Oh boy. I didn't care about Ethan in Resident Evil 7, to be honest. He was a stupid guy going after a woman who got himself into a big mess, and he didn't know what he was getting into, and just, obviously he died. So, kind of stupid. He was in over his head, and I wasn't attached to him. Didn't really care. I enjoyed the game, don't get me wrong, but I didn't really care about his character, and I certainly didn't care about Mia. Still don't really care about Mia. That changed in Village forever, however, though, for Ethan. Despite some corny or silly dialogue, I appreciated him a lot more this time. I understood his motivation compared to Resident Evil 7. I rooted for him to get his daughter back, and I really wanted him to finally catch a break and be happy. Yet when we found out the truth, I was resigned that such a thing would never happen. He'd broken down his body so much, and with the destruction of the mold here, he wasn't gonna be able to get put back together again. Still, I have so many questions with this mold shit. How the hell does a mold boy create a baby? And if he loses strength and deteriorates, can the same happen to Rose? If the mold captures the memory or the essence or whatever of the people that died, is there a way to bring them back through Rose? It seems that she knew more of her father in the end credits scene, so it makes me wonder what is left of Ethan and if we will see some form of him again, even if it's not really his story yet that's left to be told. Rose. This is obviously one powerful girl from infancy. I'm excited to see where she goes from here. Obviously, she isn't bound to the mold, but why not? How does her parasite power compare with somebody with that is infected with viruses from Umbrella? Are they studying her as well as using her? She's obviously part of the future of the game, and I'm not going to complain about that. I think there's a lot of opportunity with that. We kind of came full circle in this game. We read in a letter to Miranda that she and her experiments with the mold were inspiration from Umbrella, which is neat. I was still unsure why this mattered in the scheme of things in the universe. What was the purpose of the mold versus usual viruses? Why expand into a new area? But it makes sense. It ties into Umbrella's origin. It creates a sort of rival to Umbrella's original horrors. And with Blue Umbrella trying to supposedly clean up the original company's mess, I suppose that someone has to pick up the big bad torch. There's got to be a new baddie, and that's the connection, which I don't really know about except for the name because I googled it. In addition, Chris has uncovered the BSAA using bioweapons, so are they now becoming baddies too in Blue Umbrella? We'll have to save the day. I don't know what's going on, but they've set up some interesting things for the future. Gameplay. The mechanics of Village were easy to manage and made the gameplay experience satisfying. It was super simple to change weapons on the fly. Upgrading showed an immediate and noticeable difference. Crafting lets you decide your playstyle. I upgraded and used the weapons I found in game as my preference, but my boyfriend, he sold them off and got some new stuff from the Duke. Cool, whatever floats your boat. I like to shoot, but you may like to use mines and pipe bombs. So I craft bullets, you craft other shit, But it gives you options, which is something that I really like in games like this. I liked getting the fish, pigs, and chickens to upgrade my stats and having the Duke fried on it. But I do wish they'd revealed that earlier in the game. I sold some of these before I knew I would need to use them, and it was a bit aggravating when I realized, oh, well, crap, shouldn't have done that. But selling to the Duke in general was great, just like with the Merchant in 4. I liked finding things that can be combined into higher value, and in fact, I really wish there would have been more things to do that with. And the puzzles, just like to expect, they were just hard enough, not too difficult, not too easy. Finding inserts to unlock doors, finding codes for locks, figuring out how to raise platforms, cross water, were typical for what you'd expect in the franchise. So nothing really, new, good, bad, or whatever to say about that. It's just what you expect. Village itself had a variety of settings, which is what I really loved about Resident Evil 4. You didn't feel like you were stuck in similar scenery for almost the entire game. You were constantly on the move, somewhere completely different, and even if the creatures you fought were pretty much the same, there was just enough flavor in newer places to, keep your attention, make it fresh. Playing as Chris for a section was unexpected but fun. Blasting through the Likins gave a feel like Chris's playthrough in Resident Evil 6, which I'm playing through right now, where you're highly armed military just going and blasting through a huge assault of enemies. Gave you that kind of feel where you just go all out. After all the time with Ethan, it was great to be able to just spend some time with Chris and mow down everything in your path with a little squad to back you up. It was nice little change of pace. Final thoughts. Overall, I loved Resident Evil Village. It gave me much of what I loved in the other games. It built upon Ethan's story, so I actually gave a damn about him. It built upon the lore of the franchise and the origin of Umbrella, and it gave an interesting direction for the future. While there are things I can pick at, as I've talked about previously, I had so much fun playing this game, and I cannot wait to play it on a harder difficulty. I started to play it on the hardest difficulty today, and I don't think I'm up for that. I think I'm going to have to go to the second hardest difficulty and work my way up, because I wasn't ready for all-out balls to the wall mayhem. Not yet. Yes, I want more of Jill, Claire, and Leon, and I really hope they can tie it into this thread that they've spun with 7 and 8. I want to see the gang interact in the next games, but if it's with Rose, I'm not going to complain. I mean, there's a lot of story I think you can tell with her, and it's really interesting the direction that they've chosen to go, so I'd be okay with that. With Village closing up Ethan's story from Biohazard, I feel like Capcom's proven that they can take a different direction and stay loyal to what we love about the Resident Evil. I'll just be here for the ride, ready to go. Give me what you got, Capcom. Loving your games, especially the remakes of 2 and 3. Loved 7, and I really, really, really loved 8. So, that's all I got. Those are my thoughts. Leave your comments below, and thanks for watching. If you haven't seen my Resident Evil Village playthrough, click through the playlist in the description. It has all my Resident Evil game playthroughs, and I'll be adding more, so hit the subscribe button. I've got Revelations, I've got the Dark Side Chronicles, and some other ones that I still want to play, so I still even haven't finished Resident Evil 1, because I started on too high a difficulty, and it just kicked my ass, so I've still got to go back and beat that, I think, on easy, because I didn't play it back in the day, so I'm not used to, the way it plays, so, but, I played everything on wonky, so what you gonna do? But you can catch me on, Twitch, User Solitary Spark, usually stream Wednesday through Sunday, 10 to 11, starting there about Central Standard Time, or you can watch my VODs here on the tube. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.